back to Daily Retro. Today we've got episode 7 of Guide to Games Rooms with Mike from Retro Gamer Boy Show. Say hello, Mike.
Hey, it's good to be here, Dale.
Yeah, cheers for coming on. A really big fan of your channel. And I've followed your game room progress recently. You've sort of redone it recently, haven't you?
Yeah, I've completely moved to a different room. I negotiated with my wife to move from the smallest room in the house to a slightly bigger room, which was a long, protracted negotiation.
Did it involve lots of date nights?
Well, to get the games room in the first place, we were moving house, and I told my wife we needed a study, so we needed an extra room. And as soon as we got in there, I moved all my games in there, so it was impossible to move out. So that was how I got it first time around. Then this time around, we did a little extension upwards into the loft. So my daughter moved out of her room, and I said, like, well, it's a big room. There's no point putting an office in there. We might as well just make the small room the office and have the bigger room as the games room. So a little bit of persuading, but in the end, I just moved all my stuff in again, and she didn't complain. So
yeah, that seems the logical choice. Okay, so we'll get straight into the questions. Question 1, which is the same questions for everyone. So the first question is, when did your games room first appear? So maybe not this iteration, but your first ever.
2010. So I've always wanted a games room, and when I was single, it was my bedroom. And it was just a couple of shelves up on the wall, and TV being the focal point of the room and everything. Then when I moved in with my now wife and we got a place, it wasn't big enough, and so all my games were in boxes except for the console that I'd be playing at the time. But it wasn't until we moved to a slightly bigger house in 2010 where it's like, this is it. I'm going to have a games room. And yeah, so I've had it for about 12 years, and it's morphed and grown and changed over those 12 years.
That's cool. That's definitely one of the longest sort of time spans we've had so far. So that kind of leads us on to our second question, which was, how long did it take to build? I guess we'll talk about your current iteration, as you aforementioned.
Yeah, the games room's been an evolution anyway, so I guess it's taken 12 years to build. I start off like most people started off. I had the Ikea box furniture. That was my go-to kind of setup in the original room, and I had that for about 9 years. But I was always frustrated. The IKEA stuff's really cool, it's cheap, but I was always frustrated that I would have space above the top of my games that I had to then pack stuff in, and they were so deep that I'd either have space behind it or you couldn't see games. And so I guess a lot of what we see in my games room that I've got today are the product of a change that I went through about 2 years ago, where I was like, okay, I've saved up a bit of money. I'm getting rid of all this IKEA box shelving, and I'm going for rack shelving and some custom built shelving. So the rack shelving I got from IKEA, but they're basically single depth shelves that you can just change and adjust the height on, which instantly gave me like 5 times more space, because suddenly I could now have shelves that were the correct height for my games. And then I got some custom built shelves done in Poland. There's I forgot what they're called now. There's a company in Poland called Tileco. I forgot what they are. But essentially, I was able to kind of measure out my room and then get these shelves that had the correct distance and sizes that I wanted. And luckily, the room that I'm in now has a similar width to the room I moved from, and so those custom shelves all fit in nicely where they are. It's just that I've got more length, so I could add more shelving in there. But yeah, I spent a lot of time planning it out, getting a sense of the feel I wanted on each wall. Each wall had a purpose and a feeling to it that I wanted to kind of get for myself out of it. And so I guess those are the things that kind of helped me design and put my room together.
Yeah, that's really cool. As you say, the Kallax units are very popular. They do have a very nice aesthetic, but as you say,
Mm.
there is a lot of wasted space above and sort of behind a lot of consoles. So it's really cool to make use of the space of custom shelving.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I had them for 9 years. So they're not they're by no means terrible. And if you're starting a games room, they're probably some of the best shelving to go with because they're quite flexible. And if you get a massive figure, you can stick it in there, or if you've got a lot of games, you can put them in there, or if you've got consoles, you can put them in there. So for the price and flexibility, they're pretty cool. But I think as I went along, I started to find that I wanted now something that actually fit a Master System Mark One. And I don't have to have it at an angle inside a square shelf. But yeah, it's, they're a good, solid, staple part, I think, of every games room to start with.
Yeah, for sure. I recently had the same sort of headache as you. Discovered that the Atari 2600 does not fit in a Galaxy.
Yeah,
it's just like it's too wide. It has to go in like a diagonal. I'm just like, it's ridiculous.
yeah, for sure.
Cool. So, question number 3 is, where did the inspiration for your games room come from? Did it come from other people in real life or YouTube or?
That's such a good question. It's a mixture of a load of different things. So behind me, I've got my video wall. It's slightly evolved over time. It started off as a lot of LCD screens because I didn't have much depth to a room. Now I've got depth. I've been able to add in CRTs. That I was completely influenced by a Sega. I think it was a Sega advert I saw back in the early 90s, may even have been late 80s, where they had this advert where the whole wall was covered in different sized screens. And since I was a kid, I was like, that's so cool. I want that, right? I haven't replicated it 100% with thousands of screens, but behind me you'll see different configuration and different size screens, and that really was influenced by that Sega advert, and I've always wanted that. So that wall is that, and that is essentially my console wall. Half of it is screens, and then underneath it I have custom shelving with all my consoles on display. Then I wanted a wall that was just games. And this was kind of inspired by looking at other people's rooms, especially the guys in Australia and the States where they've got big basements or massive buildings and they have like walls of games. So I kind of wanted to replicate that. And I wanted to have everything from the floor to the ceiling used. So my games room wall, literally I've got from the floor boxes, then games, and then consoles along the top, and they go right to the top of the ceiling, so that when you come into the room you're just kind of hit with this wall of gaming. So that's another wall. And then I've got some custom shelving at another side of the wall, which is I wanted to get the chaos of a retro games room. There's a lot of rooms where it's like this organized chaos where it's like lots of different boxes of different heights and figures mingled in there, and I wanted that chaos but kind of controlled. So I have another wall where I've got this custom shelving built, and I had it custom built so that the shelves are all different sizes and off-centered with each other, so I got that chaos. But then inside each shelf I could have things like games or figures or console boxes, so it looked chaotic, but at the same time really well structured. And then to the side of that I have all my video game plaques and awards that I've won for making video games. But again, I've not put them in nice straight lines. I've kind of got them in different turn left, turn to the right, and just higgledy-piggledy. So again, just trying to get that chaos. So that's another wall. And then my final wall, I kind of wanted to bring, I've always wanted to bring arcade in there. I spent the 80s and the early part of the 90s in arcades. Like I missed the whole Gen 2 console thing because I was in arcades. And so my other wall is got a slimline arcade cab, custom built. I built that and had a company help me. And then I've taken one of the 40-inch LCD screens and I've turned it on its side, and I built a Raspberry Pi, and I have all my kind of vertical shooters on that wall, and that's kind of like my mini arcade on the other side.
Yeah, that's cool. He's taken inspiration from lots of different sources for each different wall. Like as you just said, it sort of reminds you why you made each bit, sort of thing. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that vertical screen that you sent me on the images as well, because I was wondering if it was a RetroPie or is it PlayStation 4. But as you said, it's probably RetroPie on a Raspberry Pi.
It is, and then I did a load of work to get the PlayStation 4 controllers synced to it so that I can have 2 players. We can stand back from the screen because it's massive. It's almost like having a VR headset on if you get too close to it. But yeah, so I've got that moved away.
Cool. Okay, so question number 4 is probably going to be a very tricky question for you because there's so much in your room. As you say, it's floor to ceiling stuff. What is your favorite item or feature of your current room?
Well, my favorite item is I met Miyamoto a couple of times in my development career. And he came to London and I was working at PlayStation at the time. And he went to Virgin Megastore, if anyone remembers Virgin Megastores. It's his only trip ever to Europe. So I queued up outside early morning, skipped work, went down there, and I have a first edition copy of The Legend of Zelda for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Queued up, I think I was like 15th or 20th in the line, and got him to sign that. So and took a photograph of him signing as well. So I've got that mounted on my wall. That's his signature and his picture of him signing my game. That's probably the thing I value most in my games room. And then the thing that I really enjoy is the TV wall, the screen wall that I've got behind me. Now, the reality is I only have one screen on at most times because I'm playing only one game. But now and then I'll switch them all on and have different games on and play a game and have the music playing. And it just feels like I'm in an arcade, especially if I have my arcade machine on as well. It feels like I'm just sitting in an arcade playing. So I'd say, the Miyamoto signed Legend of Zelda and the TV wall are definitely 2 of my most favorite pieces.
Definitely sounds like a very special item, and definitely not going to forget about that in a hurry. Okay, so that kind of leads us on to question 5, which is the most expensive item in your games room. So from watching your channel probably over a year now, I see a video where one of your friends donated a very rare Mega Drive game to you.
Yes.
And is that the most expensive item?
To be honest, I think the signed Miyamoto game is probably going to be the most expensive eventually. From what I had it valued by someone that does a lot of video games valuations, and they said they've not had a signed Miyamoto first edition link in there, so that may end up being the most expensive thing. But no, I also got Celtics versus Lakers PAL edition. This is on the Mega Drive. If anyone knows about the Mega Drive, this is a game that got about 119 or 120 odd copies were made, but it never got released. So they stuck with EA staff and they stuck with big stores who were sent them as kind of review copies before they stocked them. And he was going through his stuff. He knows that I'm a big Mega Drive collector. He knows how expensive it is, but he's been working at EA for like 30 years and he had one of these copies. And to start off with, he said, "Mike, I got this. Do you want it?" And it was just the box. And he sent me over the box. And then like 2 days later, he said, "Oh no, I found the game in the manual as well." I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." So, I mean, he just let me have it. He said on the proviso that I don't sell it. I could have it. And so, yeah, that sits in my collection and is by far my most expensive Mega Drive game. And I think it's probably the second most expensive Mega Drive you can get out there, or at least in the top 10 of most expensive Mega Drive games.
Yeah, I'd say that was an incredible story when I watched your video on it. I actually heard, if you've ever been to Vintage Gamer, it's sort of on the outskirts of Birmingham, the shop owner in there, Nick, he told me that someone actually came into the shop with this game, Celtics versus Lakers. Yeah. And he said to Nick, "Oh yeah, it was sealed, but I opened it up to see what was in." side.
Oh my
And he was
god.
like, "Oh god!" He's basically just Nick told him straight. You basically just halved the value of it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's a ridiculous thing because it's a $4 game, right? You can pick up the exact game cartridge because what EA did is they made the games in the US with Genesis, and then they would just send them over to Europe and the UK. So it is exactly the same as the US game, which is $4. And the only thing that's unique about it is the paper manual and the paper sleeve. And people pay thousands for just the bits of paper that are in there. So I was fortunate. I doubt I would have ever paid to own it though.
Yeah, I would totally agree on that side of things.
Yeah.
Cool. So, right, question number 6 is what do you play most in your games room? So obviously you do a series, is it weekly or is it bi-weekly, where you do live at the arcade? Is that what you play most in your games room, or
live at the arcade is a great opportunity for me to play games. I'm so busy with my job making games that getting opportunities to play them is challenging. So part of building the live show live at the arcade was for me to engage more with other systems within my games room. So yes, I play a lot of the arcade machine, or lately it's been the Switch. We've got some retro games that are out there, and I'll play them on the Switch. But I play a lot of Mega Drive on my machine, a huge amount of Mega Drive actually in my games room. Obviously it's the console I have most nostalgia for, so I play a lot of that. But then I have all my machines are set up, so I've dipped into a bit of 3DO. I played on the Atari 2600 the other day. I have a complete inbox Magnavox Odyssey, the first ever commercial console. It was quite expensive when I originally bought it, but nothing to compare to what it is now. But that I fired up just after Christmas and played some tennis, which is the only real game it had. So I play a bit of everything, but I'd say definitely like the Sega Mega Drive gets a lot of gameplay in there, and the arcade machine gets a lot of time in it as well.
Cool. Is that just playing on original hardware then, or is it upscaled in any way? Or
yeah, so the Mega Drive is all original hardware. Mega Drive, Mega CD, 32X. I got the full combo there. That I always play on original hardware. The arcade machine is emulated based, so I'm not going to be able to fit as many arcade machines as I want in there. So I have that on there. What I do with my arcade machine though is I don't have every single ROM in the world on there. I literally only have the games that I like on there, and they're all arcade games. So they're all things that there is no way for anyone to be able to purchase unless you get it on a Switch or something like that. They've been released on a Switch or a modern console. So yeah, they're just all the arcade games that I either enjoy or discover and then want to enjoy more regularly.
Cool. Yeah, I've built a RetroPie tabletop arcade as well, and yeah, it is something I play quite a lot because it's just got a massive variation of games you want to play on it.
Yeah, for sure.
And completely, this is not a question out of the 9, but have you ever played on? Obviously, you're a massive Mega Drive fan. Have you ever played on the analog Mega SG?
I haven't, and my co-host Sega Head from Live at the Arcade berates me weekly that I don't have this. So he berates me, 1, that I don't have a Mega Drive Mini, and 2, that I don't have the SG. And I keep on saying, like, I want both of those because they're both awesome pieces of kit, but I'm trying to build my Mega Drive collection, and so my money literally goes into the Mega Drive collection. So things like I want to get the karaoke machine for the Mega Drive and Mega CD. That is almost the last piece of hardware I need to have everything. I've got the modem, I've got the Master System converter, I've got the power stick, I've got all of that kind of good stuff. So yes, it is awesome, and I'm constantly reminded of how good it is. But I need, at the moment, I kind of want to just, if I've got money, I push it into buying an actual original Mega Drive game.
Yeah, that's fair enough. the Mega Drive Mini, I'm not so tempted to get myself, because it is at the end of the day like a RetroPie, where it's software emulation, not hardware emulation. But yeah, I love my Mega SG. It's probably my favorite console, just from a hardware point of view. From nostalgia, it is the Mega Drive for myself as well.
No, I'm like I said, constantly reminded. I think I was out at the London Game Show and I met a couple of people there, and someone else asked me, it's like, have you got the SG? And I was like, no, I haven't got it yet. Sega Head shows me all the different converters you can get that sit on top of it, so you can play different consoles on there, which looks just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I've got that set as well. I think you can play the SG 1000, the Game Gear, and the virtual cards. But it's funny because they sell that adapter set, but then I was looking at just how, out of interest, to get a good, decent, I think the Gallagher is on the SG 1000. You just cannot find that in Europe anywhere. It's sort of Japan only, I presume. Which is a bit of a bummer, but that's
a lot of people have said like they bought that converter set, but can they buy any games for it though? Nope.
Apart from Game
Too
Gear,
expensive.
And obviously people are going to probably prefer playing that on the analog pocket when people eventually everyone actually gets those. Okay, great. So question number 7, was there any challenges or problems you faced when you built your room, or any still unsolved?
I think my biggest challenge was when I had the Ikea furniture. My collection was growing pretty rapidly. As I've got older, I've earned a little bit more money and saved a little bit more money, so I've been able to buy more old plastic for this room. I think the biggest challenge was making that first jump of, right, I got to get the custom shelving in, figure out the shelving units, design it. That took a long time because I wanted to get it right. It's millimeter perfect, the shelving as it goes around the room. It all fits with each other. So that was probably the biggest challenge. And then moving into this room, it was relatively simple. In fact, I think the only real challenge I had was setting up the Raspberry Pi, because that thing was horrible to set up. Like, oh, why doesn't the joypad work? And why can't I get it to rotate? And I've done all the coding that I need to rotate it, but it's still not doing it. I think I spent more time setting up the Raspberry Pi than setting up this entire room and putting it, including building this custom frame and everything. The Raspberry Pi took the longest thing to set up.
I know how you feel. I love Linux, but it's so frustrating sometimes.
It was a real pain. So, but there was a lot of fun. Like the shelving behind me that holds the TVs, planning that out, getting the wood. It went through 2 iterations. One, I had this soundboard foam that I had on around it, which I used to have in the old room, but it just looked rubbish. And I put the video out showing everyone the new games room, and a lot of other people went, it doesn't look that great, does it? And I was like, no, it doesn't. So I ripped all of that off and built some wood panels that went over the front, and then painted them and built custom slots and everything in there, and it looks stunning now, or at least I think it looks stunning now. And a lot of people said, that's way better. So that was a lot of fun to do. But every time I finish the games room, I kind of feel like I wish I had another games room to put together, because they are huge amounts of fun to put together and then decide where you want all your knickknacks to go. I get a real buzz from it, and love watching videos where people go and build their own games rooms from scratch. It's kind of like I live vicariously through them now as they set up their rooms.
Yeah, it's nice to get ideas from other people's rooms as well, and it's always a constant evolution.
Yeah.
Cool. So that leads us on to penultimate question for yourself. Are there any upcoming changes to your room?
Upcoming changes? I don't think so at the moment. I do tweak things now and then. move games around, add a couple of little things in there. I do have my door, which is becoming my arcade marquee wall. So that has to be added to. The shelving that I got from Ikea, which allows me to do the rack shelving, that sold out. And I've got a couple of spaces there, so I need to find on eBay, hopefully someone selling some old stuff so I can put those in there. But at the moment, I think I'm quite happy with what I've got, and there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff that moving it around is a pain. In fact, whenever I get a new Mega Drive game, because I've got a specific order I keep my Mega Drive games in, it takes me like 50 minutes to one game, right, move all games along so I can put the one game in there. So just doing that is a challenge in itself. So I do have to, though, in the future, because I am getting more and more stuff, especially the consoles. I want to get different variants of Mega Drive Mark 1 boxes. There's about 4 of them, and they're massive. And I'd like to have them on display, but I look around the room, I was like, I don't know where I'm going to put it. So at some point, I am going to be forced at more storage solutions.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I'm the same, actually. I really like displaying console boxes, similar to yourself, but yeah, they take up so much space.
Yeah,
most notably the PS5 recently. Jesus.
Yeah.
I've got
that's a big box.
As you probably can see behind me, I've got PlayStation 1 to 5 boxes on a floating shelf. And yeah, I did have the PlayStation 5 just sat on top of my console Kallax unit, but it just dominated everything. I was like, I don't want one console to dominate the room. So yeah, it's nice to spread them out, and as you say, they're nice display items anyway. Okay, so final question for yourself before we get on to my favorite bit of your room, and that is any tips for people who are thinking of building their first games room?
I would say plan it out. Depends how much stuff you've got as well. If you've got a lot of stuff and you're looking to build a quite extensive games room, I've sold something on eBay there. Hopefully some games. If you're looking to build when you've got a lot of stuff, then I would plan it out. So I've got a couple of friends that have asked the exact same questions. What do we do? How do I go about it? And I did a top-down drawing, measured everything out, what kind of spaces I had, what kind of shelves I had, all that kind of stuff. If you're starting with a smaller collection, then usually I would say, like, get yourself something decent, like something from Ikea, that you can put your items on display, that's got a bit of flexibility, so you can move things around, and that's usually enough to get you going. So I guess it really depends on if you're more advanced with your collecting or if you're just starting your collecting. All of those different things affect, I guess, how you approach it. But extensive, make sure you plan it. If you're beginning, get yourself a nice piece of display furniture and start from there.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And quite a lot of people have said the same sort of thing, where they actually physically go and draw and measure actual floor plans for games rooms, because it's the best way to do it. One sort of sub question from that, obviously your games room is very, I would call it very, like, aesthetically pleasing, like there's no wires on show, but does that mean it's very tricky to install new wiring or replace old wiring? Or
it was when I did the first iteration, because all the wires were bunched up behind things, and it was a real pain to get set up. When I moved to this new room, I made sure that I had ports that I could plug into. So for the consoles at the back, they are not all plugged in. I'm very scared about having the power on old consoles, and that charge being in them day in, day out. But all the plugs are there and the sockets are there, so I can just plug it in if I want to play it. And the same for the lock-in into a TV. I've got like SCART connectors and HDMI connectors, and they're all located just behind or easy access but out of sight, so I can switch things out very, very, very quickly. I also then built some custom ports on the front of my unit here so that I can just plug in a console if I need to. So yeah, the second time round, I realized that it was an absolute tangle of cables. It's really horrible to kind of reorganize and move around. And so I moved to the system where I'd have like a set of plugs and a set of connectors, and then I could either have the wires stored away, and then it takes me literally to set up a console less than a minute to plug stuff in. And that's worked out really well for me. I would say if you are building out a collection and you've got lots of consoles, having them plugged in on with a static charge in there, you run the risk of blowing something eventually. So have your consoles powered off and unplugged if you can, especially some of the older stuff, because I have lost a Mega Drive that way, where there was a surge and it just blew it because it had this static charge constantly in the Mega Drive. But yeah, definitely reworked how I wired and set up connecting my consoles with the second revision.
Yeah, that's cool. That's something I've definitely not really seen before with other people's rooms, where they, like say, you've got the ports on the front rather than having to reach around the back of a cabinet or around the back of a TV, which is obviously awkward in itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really nice. I was going to ask a follow-up question to that, but I've completely forgotten.
I ramble too much. I talk about my games room and I ramble.
No worries. It might come to me, but so the favorite bit of my room favorite bit of your room that from the pictures that you sent me has to be these custom shelving, as you aforementioned. But also I've noticed there's like quite a nice sort of aesthetic to some of the wiring you've done, where you've got wires like on the wall as well. Mm-hmm. So how did you you've talked about the custom shelving, but how did you achieve the sort of wiring nice and tidy on the wall?
Yeah, so I mean, wires are a big thing for me. I hate them, which is weird. As a retro gamer, that's pretty much what you're dealing with all the time anyway. But I had the power cable and at some point also an HDMI cable that had to come out from the side of the TV, and because the TV's floating and I couldn't drill holes or anything into the walls to feed it through, I had to go around the outside. So I actually bought some stickers and made some artwork out of it, and I had it like having these plugs and wires coming out with the stickers, but one of them is actually a real cable, which is the power cable that goes off around the back. And so when you look at it face on, it looks like they're all designed funky stickers, except one of them is a real cable. So I kind of designed around the problem that I had, and made it a feature of the wall. And a lot of people come in and they look at it and they're like, oh, that's quite cool. Oh, that one's a real wire. And it's like, yeah, that's there. So it's nice and sympathetic to the room, you know, and it again, it's a way of hiding the wire, but still having it in plain sight.
Yeah, it's a nice way of doing it. Cool. So that pretty much wraps up everything. The thing I was going to say, it wasn't necessarily a question, was I'm the exact same when it comes to power. I've got two 8-way sort of power banks, I don't know what you call them, but they've got individual on-off switches on every plug, so I keep everything off. Yes, as you say, it's important for especially those older consoles when you get surges. It does have surge protection, so hopefully never ever go wrong. But it does actually, I think I mentioned on a previous episode with Pete on a retro tip that doing that does actually save the life of your capacitors in your consoles, especially. And even newer consoles, because some of the newer consoles aren't actually, the capacitors aren't even as good as some of the older consoles.
I also so another thing I do, if you're a Mega Drive collector, you'll know that they come with awkward massive power bricks, and if you've got the 32X Mega CD and Mega Drive combo, each one of those require a power brick. But I actually invested in a really good company that built a single brick with 3 points coming off, and got one of those. and it's so amazing. You can get rubbish ones and they'll degrade the signal and quality image, but these guys did a great job. So I did things like that as well, which is helped my power consumption, but also space, and just trying to organize something like that Mega Drive behemoth and its power consumption.
Yeah, that's really cool. I always like to hear about companies doing sort of custom retro hardware.
Yeah.
Great. So that's everything for this episode, guys. If you've enjoyed this episode, leave a comment and a like down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm just going to chat to Mike quickly after this, but thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers.